Void Winnower. Void Winnower turns off Cyclonic Rift, so we're gonna have the Cyclonic Rift right now.
Today on Commander Replay, we check out this Jeskai Vigilance Stax deck and try to tap out all of our opponent's stuff while our things don't tap at all. Next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, next time you purchase cards, if you want to support me and my LGS, be sure to check out mothershipatx.com and use the promo code REPLAY to save
15%
on your next order. And if you can't find what you're looking for, you can use the TCG affiliate player link. All links are in the description below.
Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Ludevic and Akroma today. This is a Jeskai Vigilance tribal deck by Patreon supporter Danon, and I was taking a look at it before the game. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. However, this opening hand isn't going to do much for us, I don't think, so we're going to go ahead and mulligan this. Definitely want a little bit more mana, maybe a little more value. Windfall is reasonable. We can make this work. We sort of have all three colors of mana. We'll have to make a choice between blue and red. But if we draw another land of either of those colors before then we should be in pretty good shape. So this should work. We have two wheels, so we can just wheel things away if we need to. So this is a really interesting looking deck. It's mostly a lot of flyers, and in particular, a lot of angels, since it is a Vigilance tribal deck. Here, we'll jump over to it real quick. So yeah, we've got a lot of flyers. We've got things like Lightning Angel, a card that I really, really love. And unfortunately, I don't play Jeskai that much, so I do not get to use Lightning Angel. It's one of my favorite arts in the game, and it's by RK Post. I almost bought a metallic lithograph of it at GP Vegas last year, but it was kind of expensive, so I didn't. But who knows? Maybe next year. Anyway, a lot of cool stuff that I like to play. We got a lot of angels in here, lots of things with Vigilance. We got a Parhelion, but we also have a lot of stacks. We've got stuff like Smoke, Meekstone, Stasis, and several others, so attacking with a bunch of creatures with flying and vigilance isn't going to be a particularly fast plan. However, when you start staxing everyone to death, that plan will get much, much stronger, so I'm interested to see how this deck goes. I did let opponents know that this deck was going to be very staxy beforehand. Generally, I think that's a very good idea before the game. Let your opponents know if you're planning to go on the hard stacks plan, because especially like the more casual to mid-power decks are just not designed to deal with massive amounts of stacks. So now the exception to that rule is if you know everyone in your group is playing like super strong decks anyway, then, you know, maybe it's not completely necessary, but like if you're playing with people you don't know, generally a good idea to let them know there's a little bit of stacks coming. Or you could at least say, my deck is very interactive. Judge's Familiar coming in for opponent. Very nice. Expedition Map for opponent. Ooh, Blind Obedience for opponent. We have a Blind Obedience of our own. I may hold off on it, especially now. Okay, there's a blue. Okay, that's really good, actually. So, yeah, with that being the case, we're going to play this Riverglade Pathway, or, well, excuse me, the Lava Glade Pathway side of this card. So, we're going to get the red land since we do need red mana. Ooh, that comes in untapped. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Let's get this double Blind Obedience business going. Love it. Things will come into play really tapped. I'm not completely committed to wheeling yet. Still got a couple lands I want to get out of the hand. I don't really want to discard Aurelia and Bruna. I think we have the other Bruna in here, which should allow us to get things back. We do. Judge's Familiar going on the attack, sure. See if there's any other reanimation in the deck. By the way, I did make one change to this deck before we got going. Hull Breacher is like 90 tickets online right now, so no Hull Breacher today. Smothering Tithe will get the same job done, but now you don't have the redundant copies of it. So I added a Jeska's Will in place, as it's just another card that makes a little bit of mana, can get us to look at some extra cards. It's been pretty good in a lot of decks, so decided to throw that in. Opponent casting their commander, Ghen Arkham Weaver coming into play. Haven't actually seen this one yet, but it's Mardu for a 2/3, and then you pay Mardu, tap it, sacrifice an enchantment, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So looks like it's going to be an Enchantress style deck, and probably do a lot of different things with enchantments, so we'll see what they've got, and definitely makes sense having a Blind Obedience in there for that reason. But that does bring it back to our turn. There's a Talisman of Conviction. I like that. That's going to get us some ramp going, so I can appreciate that. Let's get this island in just in case of a wheel. And then I guess we play the Talisman. We can... we tap. I mistapped. We could have extorted. Whoops. Could have extorted. Hopefully we don't lose by 3 life. Hope that's what happens. Anyway, we'll pass like that. And with that, we'll take a look at what our opponents are playing today. So we talked about Ghen a little bit, being piloted by Sean, Milk and Cheese. Over on our left, we have Mockfire piloting the new Kangee Skywarden. So he's had a bird tribal deck for quite a while. He's played the old Kangee on the channel a number of times up to this point. So I assume that this is his old deck, just with the new Kangee in the command zone and maybe one or two new pickups from Commander Legends. But I assume it'll be the same frame of bird deck that he had beforehand. So there's a Worn Power Stone coming in, yeah. Solid ramp. But new Kangee, we'll take a look at this one. So it's 5 mana for a 3/3, has Flying and Vigilance, says when it attacks, creatures with Flying get +2/+0 until end of turn, and when it blocks, blocking creatures with Flying get +0/+2 until end of turn. So pretty cool little card. I think it gives you a fair amount for 5 mana if you're looking to do a blue-white flyers kind of thing. And it's probably actually a card that you could consider for this deck as well. And in fact, it is also in our deck. Sweet. Fabrication module coming in for opponent. Interesting. Whenever you get one or more energy counters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Pay 4, get an energy counter. Interesting. And their commander, by the way, is Hope of Ghirapur, so not entirely sure what they're up to yet. But Hope of Ghirapur tends to be a little bit staxy, at least in the sense of, like, sometimes they stop you from casting spells. I've seen some Voltron builds with Hope of Ghirapur over the years, but I don't know. We'll see what they've got going. Looks like they've got at least some sort of energy theme in there. Opponent does cast themselves a Smothering Tide. That's going to be a nasty one. That's actually going to shut off our wheels, basically. So that's not ideal. Would like to find some removal for that. We're going to pay? We're not going to pay. So they're probably just going to get a lot of mana off of us, and that is not great. Also bad news right here. Teferi's Ageless Insight requires double blue. We do not have double blue in this moment. So we're going to play a Plains. Oh man, Ludevic isn't the best with the Smothering Tide down either. Card draw starts to look really bad with Smothering Tide on the table. But we don't have much else to do, so we're going to play Ludevic and we'll extort with the Blind Obedience. So we ding everyone a little bit. We'll go back to 40. Does come in tapped, and we will draw a card at the end step. It's a Plains. Smothering Tide, trigger for opponent. Yep, not paying. So I hope that there's some enchantment removal in this deck. It appears to be very light on enchantment removal. There's a Chaos Warp. There's a Generous Gift. Yeah, that's something we're going to want to take a look at. A little bit more artifact enchantment removal is going to be a good idea. That's a Kindred Discovery. A card that's very good for opponent, but also going to be really good for Sean with that Smothering Tide. So, problems mounting. Problems mounting. It's only turn 4, but there are some issues. I'm going to poke away at the Hope of Ghirapur. It's going to trigger the Kindred Discovery twice. Yep. Who brought the removal? Here's another thing, too. There's, like, Winter Orb and stuff like that in the deck. Winter Orb does not stop a lot of treasures. As good as Winter Orb is, there are many things that people can and do run that will get around Winter Orb. Even just, like, a Gilded Lotus will probably let you win the Winter Orb battle, but let alone if they have something like a Neheb or something else. Smothering Tide. Smothering Tide is the really good one. Winter Orb plus Smothering Tide is usually a game winner. And now you've also got Hull Breacher. You can run with that as well. Solemn Simulacrum for opponent. That'll come in tapped. Ludevic trigger. Nothing. The Hope of Ghirapur, by the way, being piloted by a new Patreon supporter, Sherry. So excited to have them into the game. Don't know exactly what their playstyle is yet. Since I do play with a lot of the other Patreons a lot, you kind of get a feel on how they like to build and how they like to play. But interested to see some fresh faces in here and see what kind of stuff they bring to the table. Blessed Sanctuary. Oh, that's a real card. Prevent all non-combat damage that will be dealt to you and creatures you control. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 unicorn creature token. And that's got Extort. Yep. Sacrifices a bunch of treasures. Casts an Iroas. No big deal. It's going to Extort. Yep. I think we're going to have an Extort battle. So the Extort battle will keep Sean and I relatively high, but Mock and Sherry, their lives are going to bleed pretty quickly if we're extorting everything we do. Ghen coming our way. Yep. In for 2. Blind Obedience is really good. It's a card that I need to run more than I do. In many videos, I've talked about the fact that it can be a win condition late, but also just if you gain like 6 life with it throughout the course of a game, like 9 life, if you gain between 5 and 10 life with this thing, that is a lot of life gain to keep you out of the danger zone and keep you out of Alpha Strike range. Gaining 5 or 10 life in a game is really good, and I think something that gets undervalued a bit. We draw a Winter Orb. Not exactly what I'm looking for right here. Not going to be helpful with Smothering Tide on the battlefield, so someone's going to need to do something about that. So in the meantime, I guess we just cast Aurelia, see what happens. Oh, it's going to come in tapped. You want to know what's terrible for Aurelia? Coming in tapped, Blind Obedience, Authority of the Consoles, that type of stuff. Makes her way less good. Nothing left to extort. We'll poke Mock real quick just to try to get the card draw. So we poke them for 1. We draw. It's another land. Excellent. Want to keep making those land drops. Ooh, next turn we can cast Akroma. And Aurelia will untap Akroma for the second combat, so that's a pretty good thing. Kangee Skywarden coming in. It'll come in tapped. Kindred Discovery will trigger. Yeah, Sean's going to just have all the mana he wants to run wild. Warden of Evo's Isle comes in tapped. Kindred Discovery, Smothering Tithe. No attacks for opponent, so they won't get to draw. Opponent's got a War Room in play, by the way. One that I hadn't thought about, but does make a lot of sense if you're playing a colorless deck. One more way to draw cards. Drawing cards, not the easiest to do in a colorless deck, and especially not that easy to do efficiently. So War Room, very nice for colorless decks in the sense that it's just a land slot. Stone Coil Serpent coming into play. X4 does come in tapped. Reach, Trample, Protection from Multicolored. We do have some multicolored. So that is a very reasonable blocker against us. Solemn Simulacrum over to Mockfire. They've got some choices here. I doubt that they trade these things into the Solemn Simulacrum. Starfield Mystic coming into play. Enchantments cost 1 less. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yep. Opponent does extort because they have so much mana. Also, they just dropped in a Serra Sanctum, so they're going to be making a lot of mana. They're going to be clearly the threat at this point. Yeah, that's an austere command. All artifacts and creatures 4 or greater. Not ideal. So we lose Aurelia and the Talisman, and that will mess us up a bit. Mock usually has a pretty good amount of removal in his deck, so hopefully he finds something soon, because Sean's going to run away with it if we don't do something. Heliod Suncrown. Gross. Here's an extort trigger. I mean, I'm almost tempted to wheel. Down to 1 card. I don't really want to give him 7 fresh cards. That doesn't seem ideal. We're taking a big attack right here. Yep. It's going to be 11, I think. Yep. Down to 21. There's a Glacial Fortress. Blue mana is actually very helpful. Not paying. Play the Glacial Fortress. I think I'm going to play the Teferi's Ageless Insight, and I'll extort. So back to 24. So our opponent's lost life because of the extort. I'll leave back the blocker then as a 1/4. No need to poke, that being the case. So we'll pass like that. Also, I just want to keep drawing into if we can find some lands, ramp, and removal. It's kind of where I want to be. So we'll draw a card at the end step. And that'll be 2 cards. There's a Cyclonic Rift. Cyclonic Rift is a card that could actually do some work for us, so could kind of reset things a bit. Opponent's going to get a bunch of treasures. Hope for no wheel. Wheel would be bad. But if they wanted to drop down an Hour of Revelation or something like that, austere command of their own, that would not be terrible. Mind Shrieker coming in. Sean's up to 51. Whew. Yeah, when you can just extort every single time. And now they've got Heliod out there too. Ugh. Kindred Discovery. Oh, you want what we could do? We could theoretically go Cyclonic Rift and then hit a wheel on our turn. We would draw 14 if we did that. Potentially more, depending on the windfall, but with the Wheel of Misfortune, 14. Although, we got to be careful of our life. So we'll see what kind of cards in hand everyone has. Although, Mock might have a full 7 with the Kindred Discovery in play. Windbrisk Raptor, nice. Attacking creatures you control have lifelink. A card that I've used in the past, a long, long time ago. Yeah, lifelink is cool on your flyers. So I'm sure they're going to be doing anything they can to try to gain some life back right here. Yeah, and they're just going to swing everything they got into Sean. It's going to trigger the Kindred Discovery, so this should help us with the windfall. And they should have at least 7 in hand. So they go down to 47, Mock's back up to 31. Ludevic and Smothering Tithe triggers. I think he's going to have to discard it as end step. Yep, so he's still got 7 in hand, so feeling good about the whole rift into windfall kind of thing. Wouldn't be sad if opponent wanted to drop down on all his dust right here. Do they have the mana? I think they might be 1 short. There's the 7th land. Do they have an all his dust? They have a Relic of Progenitus. That's actually pretty useful. Ghen is a graveyard commander. I'd prefer to not lose our Aurelia, also. They're going to tap out for a Conduit of Ruin, and they get to search their library for an Eldrazi card because of the Sanctum of Ugin. Yeah, Sean's going to be able to do some things. Plays a land, that's good. He's only got 2 cards in hand. That's probably the 1 saving grace right here. There's a Solemn Simulacrum. Yep, can extort that. Triggers the Heliod. Pumps the Iroas. Blessed Sanctuary, going to make a token. Solemn Simulacrum trigger. What do they want to do for attacks? We're wide open, basically. Oh, Fearing Mock. Yeah, Mock does run a lot of board wipes in that deck. He's got maybe 5 or 6 of them that I'm aware of. Gonna give lifelink to the Iroas. Yep. This should get a good little blood feud going. But if Mock casts his... Ooh, down to 7. No, it'll be tough to attack with Kangee. You do have to attack with Kangee, just because it'll come in tapped off a bunch of stuff. But it'll be tough to get that Kangee bonus. But they could always just drop a True Conviction. That solves a lot of problems also. Lost to a true conviction last night. Should have shot it at the end step. Even sat there and thought about it for a while. Then I didn't, and then they had counterspell mana during their turn. Oh, that's a Meek Stone. That's something. Those all have 2 power, though. That's maybe not the most helpful. Yeah, so definitely play the Plains. We have exactly 7, so we can't spend any mana on anything. But believe it or not, Sean is actually tapped out. So we'll send the Ludevic over their way. Keep that card draw coming. We're going to draw at the end step. Ooh, a negate. Rising Waters. Lands don't untap. The beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps land they control. So, Winter Orb in enchantment form. 2 Smothering Tithe treasures. We need to discard... So, discard Rising Waters. And I think I think I'm also gonna... Would we need 2 wheels for any reason? I don't think we would, so we'll get rid of the Wheel of Misfortune. Soul Rain coming in. It is unfortunate with all the stacks, Winter Orb type stuff. Like, Hull Breacher is actually a pretty big part of this deck. Ooh, you wanna know what? Winter Orb will come in tapped. That's interesting. Actually, no, it won't, because if we rift everything, then it won't come in tapped. Empyrean Eagle. Yep. Pumping up those flyers. Kindred Discovery. Gust Cloak Savior. It's a bird soldier. Triggers all the stuff. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may untap that creature and remove it from combat. It's a nice little effect for that deck, because most of the birds themselves aren't particularly big, so if opponents do have flying blockers, it allows you to keep your stuff safe. It's not like overpowering or anything, but if you're talking about a tribal deck like that, it's a nice little piece to have around. Especially if you can get some like cost reduction off of like Urza's Incubator or something like that. Really makes it worth it a lot more. Kindred Discovery is going to trigger. Yep. So everything over to Sean. He will feel this a bit. Well, maybe he won't. Let's see. He's at 57. Goes to 42. So that's 15. Brings Mock back up to 22. So, much healthier than 7. And going to play a Soulcatcher's Airy. Ludevic will trigger. So as far as this rift, we're either going on the end step or in combat if they attack us. Void Winnower. Void Winnower turns off Cyclonic Rift, so we're going to have a Cyclonic Rift right now. Ew. Okie dokie. Cyclonic Rift does indeed cost 2 mana, even though the overload cost is 7, so Void Winnower does stop that. So Sean's not going to get crushed nearly as hard as if we were doing this during his main phase. Or during his combat step, rather. It's good, though. Ooh. We can still cast Windfall, can't cast the Angel, can't cast that Angel, can't cast Winter Orb. So yeah, I think we're on Meekstone Windfall on our turn, based on the Void Winter Orb being in play. Sean's not going to be able to recast Smothering Tithe, that's something. Can't recast Blind Obedience, can't recast Iroas. Ghen can bring things back from the graveyard, so that's something to think about. They can just discard the cards they want, and then do the Ghen thing. It comes in tapped. That'll play right into our Meekstone. Relic of Progenitus back to play. Comes in tapped. Ghen back to play. Comes in tapped. Blessed Sanctuary back to play. There's a Talisman. Can't cast that. So yeah, I think we're on Meekstone Windfall, the only 2 cards we can cast other than our commander. I think I'm going to go to combat first and just do a little poke with Ludevic. We'll poke Sherry since I think they're kind of the new leader with Void Winnower on the battlefield. Really cuts off a lot of our decks, so I guess if we can chip them down a bit. Tough call right here. Oh man, with 14 cards, we probably shouldn't Blind Obedience. Yeah, I'm going to skip the Extort on Blind Obedience because we're going to draw 14. Oh no, we're going to draw 34. Mockfire has 17 cards in hand. Oh my god. Hope is a Reliquary Tower in this deck. Meekstone is in. Play the Windfall. Extort trigger. There is no Reliquary Tower in this deck. Thought Vessel? Nope. We are going to be discarding a lot of cards. We have many cards in hand. So many cards in hand. Ooh. Jeska's Will give us 17 red mana. So, like in this Jeska's Will, pick up. Anything we can do to, copy that? A lot of white in this deck, though, so it's going to be tough to get the white all in this turn. But we can still get a lot of stuff into play, I think. Smoke. We can get a smoke into play. That'll be fun. I guess we've already got Meekstone, but why not also get the smoke? Any way to get rid of that Void Winnower? No, can't cast that one because it's even. Doesn't look like it. Everything that looks to deal with it appears to be evenly costed. We could go for Mystical Tutor next turn and do something that gets rid of it. We can't cast Smothering Tithe with our own Idyllic Tutor. Any other enchantments worth getting? Stasis. I don't know if I want to go the Stasis route just yet. Yeah, it doesn't really look like there's anything I'm itching for. Rhystic Study, maybe? Okay, let's do this. Let's play a Soul Ring. Make sure it's not coming in tapped. Not paying for the Blind Obedience. Cast the Jeska's Will. We'll use both modes since our commander's in play. No Extort. Supreme Verdict we can't cast. Parhelion we can't cast. Gisela we can't cast. Awesome, awesome. Love when that happens. We got 17 red mana. Start with this Oketra's Monument. Cannot pay red to extort. Pearl Medallion unfortunately cannot be cast. Signet cannot be cast. Smoke can't be cast. Ugh. Void Winnower is destroying our soul. Maybe we should have Mystical Tutored first. I don't know. Then we'd be really low on colored mana. Angel of Invention is interesting. It's got lifelink. That's something. We've only got 2 white mana to our name, so whatever... We could have potentially a second blue. What's this one do? Whenever a creature or land becomes tapped, put an hourglass on it. Doesn't untap. Remove all counters. Not too worried about that. This plus Akroma next turn is really good. But opponents also have a lot of cards in hand, so like board wipe might just be coming. How to feel about all of this? Yeah, this deck is very reliant on evenly costed cards. That is something you got to watch out for when a Void Winnower happens. We really exhausted just about everything we can cast? I think we have. Well, I really thought I was going to be able to get a lot more done with this. Yeah, we'd be casting a lot of mana rocks right now, which would make me super happy, but nope, not to be. Yeah, I guess it's Lyra Dawnbringer then. Where'd that command tower go? Let's get the command tower in. Oh, we have a swords in hand. Just noticed that. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Wow. Almost missed that. Been looking at this hand for a while. Swords the Void Winnower. Not paying. Get Boros Signet. Pearl Medallion. Get Talisman. We're running low. Still running low on colored mana. Also, I'd like to leave up the Dovin's Veto for whoever tries to inevitably board wipe all of our stuff. How much do we want a Gisela? I kind of want a Gisela for the lifelink, although we have other sources of lifelink. Maybe we just go Parhelion. So that'll give us white. That'll give us white. But then we can't leave up the thing, so we got to cast something with only a single white in the cost. That's double white. Maybe Odric? Ghostly Prison's also not terrible. Or we could also go into Smothering Tithe of our own. Seems reasonable. Let's do it. Idyllic Tutor. Use the Signet. So apparently Jessica's Will. Really good with Windfall and Teferi's Ageless Insight. No on the Blind Obedience. Get Smothering Tithe. Cast Smothering Tithe. There. And with that, we've used a pretty good portion of the large amount of red mana that we had. Feel pretty good about that. And we'll pass. And then we're going to have to go to the discard step, which is going to be terrible. Draw 2 more cards. What'd we get? Arcane Signet. Could have used the colored mana. Start with discarding a bunch of lands. Don't think we need the temporal thingy. I'm going to get rid of Pain lands right here because our life total isn't super high. Actually, I might keep Hallowed Fountain, though. There's 27 cards in our hand. That's a lot. Guess we get rid of the Signet. Get rid of that thing. Get rid of the Sunblast Angel. Guess we get rid of the Plains. Splendid Angel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 cards to go. Kangee, I guess. And Angel of Invention. Boom. So there's our 7. Avacyn, Dovin's Veto, Lyra, Ghostly Prison, Odric, Akroma's Will, and Akroma Angel of Wrath. And we should be getting some Smothering Tithe treasures to help pay for all that stuff. And as long as we get this first one right here, we'll have a counterspell to stop any board wipes that might be coming our way. And being that everyone has so many cards in hand, they are much less likely to pay for Smothering Tithe treasures. There's a treasure we need, so Dovin's Veto is online. Mana Crypt comes in tapped. Ouch. Yeah, I thought he might try an Hour Revelation. I know he runs it in that deck, so definitely need to counter this. We still have 2 more opponents worth of 34 cards to survive, though, and that's a lot. That is a lot. Door of Destinies, Choosing Birds, comes in tapped. Ludevic trigger at the end step, Smothering Tithe trigger. We lost life when we used the Talisman, so they drew. Mock has to discard down from 15. I know his deck has Recursion. He runs sort of Light and Shadow and probably 1 or 2 other things. This deck was looking a bit light on Recursion, probably another thing that I would look at. I think it was only the Bruna. Opponent had to go, so they scooped right there. Our last turn took a really long time. That was probably like at least 15 minutes of me staring and trying to figure everything out, so I don't blame them. Ludevic trigger, and we pass like that, down to a 3-man game. This is the Triangle of Death, although we are clearly the archenemy in this moment. We'll see what Sean's got. We got rid of a lot of his nasty stuff, but if he brings back Smothering Tithe and 1 or 2 other things, he could be back in it in a hurry. Any sort of like enchantment reanimation, bring him right back into it. With 17 cards, doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. Equipose. At the beginning of your upkeep, I gotta read this one, out of Visions. At the beginning of your upkeep, for each land target player controls in excess of the number you control, choose the land that player controls, then the chosen permanents phase out. Repeat this process for artifacts and creatures. Oh, weird. We have a turn on that. So I think if I'm understanding that right, if they have more stuff than you, you get to phase out their permanents down to the number you control. So sort of like a balance, except it phases them out instead of destroys them. Non-white creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap step. That's Crackdown. Fortunately, almost all of our creatures are white. Shouldn't affect us too much. Ooh, Ghostly Prison. That'll slow us down. Demonic Tutor. Uh-oh. Opponent tutored 14 cards in hand, sending Ghen our way. Surprised they didn't use it at all. Getting back something. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't use that activated ability, because getting something good back, especially like a Smothering Tithe, really impactful. Also that Iroas, very good. Although, maybe they just went for, with the Demonic Tutor, they might have just gone for Replenish or Open the Vaults. They got to be careful if they open the vaults, because we have some stuff in there. Some nasty Stax pieces. Brings us back to our turn. There's a Linden, Steadfast Queen. We can get some life gain going with that. Our biggest problem right now is just the amount of white mana symbols that we have. But we do have a lot of cost reduction on white. So let's get to it. I think the first things we want lifelink. Yeah, lifelink's going to be a big deal. So like Lyra, Akroma, I think is where we want to be in this moment. We want to try to get this Odric in also. So let's get Lyra. Start by using the Boros Signet and the Soul Ring. Oketra's Monument. Ooh, the tokens are going to have haste also once we play the Odric. Yeah, that'll be good. No extorts. Need all of the white mana. Ooh, potentially we can Akroma's Will and give them all double strike too. Can we get lethal this turn? Cast Akroma. We're going to run out of mana, I think. Get Odric. Odric for 2 mana. Not too bad. Lots of cost reduction in white. Love it. Ooh, we need to get big Akroma. Do we have enough left for big Akroma? Ooh, tell me we're one short. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we're one short. That's no good. That's no good. I guess it means we got to sit on Akroma's Will. Plan that poorly. For some reason, I thought we had cost reduction too. I was thinking Urza's Monument, but nope. Only cost reduction of 2, not cost reduction of 3. Yeah, I wish we held on to a land also. Guess we don't get to end it this turn. Akroma and Odric will trigger. This is a 7/10. That's not awful. We'll tax Sean because he did tutor. Oh, we got to pay 2? Yeah, I guess we're paying 2. And then that'll leave us just enough for Akroma's Will. Oh, man, I wish we had enough to get all those in. So we probably should have skipped Lyra and went for Akroma, because that would have given us haste. Yeah, and then we could have probably gone double strike, and that would be very good. Be very, very good. We draw 2. Chaos Warp, Wheel of Fortune. Those are helpful cards. Mana Crypt Flip. Do we care about this Equipose that much? Because we'll phase out during his turn. But then we just come right back in? Seems fine. We'll lose. No, I don't think we'll really lose anything. I think we'll be fine. Mox got something big. Looks like 10 total mana to his name. Marshall's Anthem kicked 3 times is pretty good. Get back some birds. That's a card that I might consider for this deck also. Do want to see just a bit more reanimation in the deck. Probably the Windbrisk Raptor since it's big. But what else does he get? Aven Brigadier. Cool. All their stuff does come in tap because of Blind Obedience, though. Akroma triggers on combat. Yep. So dodge the board wipe right there. Sean tutored, so whatever he tutored for, I mean, it's got to be like a board wipe or, well, board wipe might not matter, but it might be the proactive play. Some sort of mass reanimation thing. We will see. Equipose, we'll see what happens here. Hopefully we don't get screwed by it. Yep. Targeting us. Ooh, we can phase out our Chaos Warp. Or we can phase out the mana that we need to cast Chaos Warp. That's something. If he gets Blind Obedience back, all of our stuff would come in tapped. That would be not great. Yeah, a lot of our stuff is phased out. We lost artifacts and creatures. I think they have similar number of lands to us. We do get 1 treasure back. Let's see what his big play is. Replenish. Yep, that's what I thought it might be. Okay. It's going to make things a little bit worse. Blessed Sanctuary triggers. Yep. Ooh, our Blind Obedience is out too. Starfield Nyx is into play. Blind Obedience is in. That means our things come in tapped. That means we have to dance around we have to do some tricks to get our things untapped. I have a plan. Ooh, Painful Quandary. Painful Quandary is going to make that plan much worse. Much, much worse. Discard a card. I guess we can discard cards. Opponent gains some life. Heliod's going to pump something up. Ooh, our treasures are going to come in tap too. That's not great. Opalescence is in, so every enchantment is a creature now. Opponent's going to send a 6/6 our way. Yep, and a 3/3. Changes their mind on the 3/3. 6/6 coming in. We can block with... it's just 6. I think we'll be okay. We've got life gain. Oh, our things... apparently phasing doesn't get hit by the Blind Obedience. That's really good. Not paying for the Smothering Tithe. Is it Signet? Okay. So, I mean, cast Akroma, cast Avacyn, try to win, give everyone double strike. That should do it. Cast Akroma. Painful Quandary. No, we'll pay the life. We are about to gain a ton. No extort. Alright, the new one does come in tapped. Sadness. Probably skip Avacyn then. We will play Linden though because of the life gain. Oketra's Blind Obedience. We'll discard the Signet, I guess. Maybe we just Akroma's Will now before the Odric trigger. I don't know if that really matters. Yeah, I don't think it matters. Go to combat. It will matter for the Akroma trigger. So yeah, we'll do it now. Painful Quandary. We'll pay the life. Blind Obedience. I think we will Blind Obedience right here. So millions of abilities. Odric trigger. Spread those abilities. Akroma trigger. Make everything huge. Oh wow. The 1/1s became 10/10s. That's pretty serious. Do some attacking. This should... Oh, we missed one. This should be lethal. Oh, God, we got a... Ghostly Prison. Ghostly Prison. All right. Who's the biggest ones? We need to send in the least amount. Ghostly Prison making this terrible. All right. So that in there. That in there. What is that? That's 27. We need to send one more. It's going to cost 6. We don't have 6. Oh, he's going to survive. He's going to survive. Should have Chaos Warped the Ghostly Prison. Oh, God. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're 1 short. Awesome. I guess we can gain a ton of life right here, and that's the thing. Pay 4. Linden triggers. So we're at 12. Go to 20 off the Linden triggers. Oh, there's double strike in there. Oh, that might be enough. Unless he's got Settle the Wreckage, in which case we are boned. It's a Teferi's protection. Eee. Okay, it's not Settle the Wreckage, so that's good. Stops a lot of life gain, though. No, stops some life gain. Heliod trigger. Mach goes to negative 44, and that's before the double strike hit. Oh my god, we go to 140. That's a little bit of life. It takes 2 for the Ghostly Prison. Okay, then. Well, pass the turn. Ludevic trigger. Draw a card. There's that Bruno we've been looking for. Equipose. They have a lot more stuff in play this time, though, so I don't think they'll be touching our creatures at all. Get some of our artifacts, though. Up to... Being at 140 life is cool. Not saying that we're completely safe, but they need some really specific cards. Cathar's Crusade and a bunch of tokens would be one way to do it. It's going to take some form of like really big pump effect, multiple combats, double damage, that type of thing. See what he's got. Akroma has lifelink also, so like we can gain some life back on some blocks and things like that. There's a Sigil. I mean, if the next card is Cathar's Crusade, with like a few enchantments after it, probably start knocking on the door. But we've got a lot of blockers too, so that's the thing they've got to worry about. Herbor again to play. Uh-oh, Underworld Breach. So they can Demonic Tutor again. They can Austere... Ooh, they can Austere Command. Austere Command would not be ideal. Heliod. Though if they go for creatures, they would hit some of their own stuff. Well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. If they blow up big creatures, they'll only hit a couple other things. They'll hit a lot of our stuff. There's Demonic Tutor. Running low on mana, has a single treasure and a Serra Sanctum. That can get a lot of white. True Conviction would make it interesting. Do you get like a Hall of Heliod's Generosity to get back the Underworld Breach? Kind of go wild that way. See what they went for. 12 white mana. That's a bit. Ew. Overwhelming Splendor, you say? Well, it's a good thing we held on to that Chaos Warp, but they're going to get a pretty good shot at us right here. See how much of that 140 they can chew through. We're down to 137 off of Extort triggers. Overwhelming Splendor. Real magic card. Our creatures are 1/1s with no abilities. Ouch. Demonic Tutor again, because yeah. Blind Obedience trigger. You'd open the vaults just in case. Talisman for opponent. Opponent sending it. Yep, this doesn't look like 137, so I'm just going to take... Although, actually, we can kill a Blind Obedience. We should kill a Blind Obedience. I'm going to take the rest. Oh, wait, there's an Iroas in play. That's not going to work. Whoops. It's okay. It's only 2 warriors. Down to 104, so what was that? That was like 30-something? But they'll have more creatures next turn, so we definitely don't want to dawdle. Brings it back to our turn. Smothering Tithe, trigger for our opponent. Not paying. We need to Chaos Warp the Overwhelming Splendor. That's step number 1. Nothing good's going to happen if we don't do that. Painful Quandary, we can pay the life, I think. Down to 99. We have anything but Double Strike. New creatures will come in tapped because of Blind Obedience. Yeah, so I think we just send it like this. Is that going to be enough, though? We need... Yeah, it should be with Akroma and Odric. Akroma on the bottom, Odric on top. Akroma trigger. Things are large. Send them. Oh, the Ghostly Prison. The Ghostly Prison. Try it again. Akroma's a 14. Let's send that. What's the next biggest one? This is an 11. That's a 10. This is a 10. Gotta pay 8. Oof. Paying the 8. Linden triggers. And they finally go down. Interesting game. Got to see a lot of cool and unusual stuff in this game. It was kind of, it was a lot of fun. Sean's got my vote. That was a cool deck. Okay, yeah, let's go take a look at this deck. So I think the big thing in this deck is that it's a little bit removal light. There are very few ways to deal with artifacts and enchantments, so let's bump that up a little bit. I'm not going to try to change too many cards here. I think this deck has a cool vibe that's going on. If you can get a Hall of Heliod's Generosity, I would probably do that for this deck. Just, it's a land, so give you a little bit more recursion in the land. I did notice the recursion was lacking a bit, so that's probably something I would do. But Heliod's Intervention, gonna be a really good piece of removal right here. I'm also thinking a Dismantling Wave, and that should give you enough artifact and enchantment removal to not get owned by a Smothering Tide like we saw right there, because then on top of that, you got your Generous Gift and your Chaos Warp already. So that's good stuff. Take a peek at the creature removal. There's a Wrath of God, Sunblast Angel, Elish Norn. Got an Abrade right here. There's a lot of things that tap creatures down or keep them tapped, so that is helpful. We got a Cyclonic Rift. So the deck has a lot of interaction just because it's very stacksy, but it doesn't actually have a lot of, like, true removal. I would bump up the traditional removal just a little bit. It doesn't need to be insane, but just enough to clear things out. To have a theoretical out in your deck, you do have a Mystical Tutor, so if you have a Mystical Tutor in hand, you're like, I need something. Making sure you have a card in the deck that's going to solve the problem, I think, is where you want to be. So yeah, it's not going to have as much removal as a deck that I would like, especially if I'm playing like my own Angels deck, but we can at least add a teeny bit. I think the card I want to see is a Magma Quake. It's instant speed and doesn't hit flyers, and that's really good stuff. So you can kind of leave it up during your other turns, and then at the end step or during a combat or whatever the case is, you can fire off the Magma Quake and get rid of a bunch of stuff. And the tempo blowouts from firing that off at instant speed are really good. Plus, it doesn't hit flyers, which most of your deck is flyers, so going to be a really good time, I think. And there's more of these. You can also use Earthquake if you find that the double red is kind of a problem for this deck. It's sorcery speed, but it's one less to cast, but again, doesn't hit flyers. So that's the thing you can look at. Fault Line is also really good. Hits players if you want the ability to just finish off players, especially if you're gaining life, which this deck can do. The other thing I wanted to see is just a bit more reanimation. I think it's just the Bruna, and with the wheels, you will lose some things into the graveyard. I noticed there's a lot of planes in the deck, so you could look at Amaria. I think these have gotten a little expensive, if I'm not mistaken, but if you have one lying around, I would probably add it in. The trick then becomes you need to find a way to get enough planes in to activate Amaria, and the best way to do that is probably like Burnish Heart, Amaria Shepherd. That's probably what I would do. Just to give you a bit more reanimation in the deck, because this can also, you can just play a regular land to get back your other stuff into hand too. So just some way to get your things back, and I think that'll cover your bases just a teeny bit more. Angelic Field Marshal can be really solid for a deck like this also. It'll give you Team Vigilance, so any of your creatures that don't have it naturally, it will help. And also, it's just pretty good with Akroma. So if Akroma's in play, it's going to be a 5/5 by itself, and then when that first Akroma trigger happens, it's going to turn into a 7/7, which is really good for your 4-mana investment. It's not a card that you have to run, but it's certainly very interesting. So the question is, what would I take out? We've added a few things. I would take out this Abrade unless there's a really specific reason that you need to be running this Abrade. Typically, it's good for fast metas like CEDH type stuff where you don't have a lot of time or mana to interact, but that's not the feeling that I get from this deck. So I would go without Abrade and then look to Heliod's and Dismantling Wave for that artifact removal, and then you'll get then look to other places for your creature removal. I know there's an aesthetic going here with a lot of these Stax pieces. I would probably get rid of some of the less good Stax pieces. I'm not really sure about Mist of Stagnation. Haven't really seen it. Temporal Distortion either. Having not seen either of those in play, I have some questions about them. Honestly, there's a question of like whether you really need Linden in the deck. It's more life gain, it's vigilance, that's fine, but like when you look at like Lyra Dawnbringer gains a lot of life very quickly. It's not that Linden's awful, but can you do better? Because we added the Burnish chart, I might drop one talisman right here. I'll drop the blue-white talisman, I guess. Still got 4 cards to go as far as cuts. I did add a land, so we can cut up plains. Wouldn't mind seeing the mana base get spiced up a little bit. It is plains heavy. I noticed that we were struggling just a bit on our other colors. I can part with the Rising Waters. We've already got Winter Orb. Especially the 4 mana into Rising Waters is going to be not amazing. Although, I get it. You have the Hull Breacher thing, so maybe we'll keep Rising Waters, I guess. But you have some of the other stuff too. I don't know. I think we can part with like a Stax piece, maybe even 2. Temporal Distortion. My recommendation would be to probably cut these 2 Stax pieces right here. They do seem pretty wacky. And paying a lot of mana for your Stax pieces does get a little awkward. Don't love that. But that still leaves you with some good ones in Winter Orb, Smoke. Maybe we've removed too much Stax. Stasis, bring back in Rising Waters. I'll take that over the 5 mana ones. The 5 mana ones seem very expensive. Think I can part with a Negate? Okay, that brings us down to 98. So I dropped a Counterspell, basically slotting something else in over the Counterspell. I'm not a huge Counterspell guy. I like a couple just to stop that big spell. We've got Dovin's Veto. We've got Narset's Reversal. I think those are very good. You know, you're not a Counterspell deck. You're just like we saw in this game, we needed to stop that Hour of Revelation. So that's all I'm really looking to do. And again, there's other ways to go about this. I'm just thinking about ways that are kind of like fun and flavorful for the deck. Burnished Heart, Ameria Shepherd combo is really good. That will get you the planes you need for Ameria. Also, just helps you reanimate a lot of stuff, which is a concern for the deck right now. But there's other ways to go about it. We saw a Marshal's Anthem in that game. You could go about it that way for reanimation as well, and that would work pretty good. So that's really a preference thing to whichever one you want right there. Like I said, just a teeny bit more removal, especially for artifacts and enchantments. An opposing Smothering Tithe against this deck is going to be really bad, especially if you're trying to lock the lands out. We did go up in creatures just a little bit, so if you wanted to bring those Stax pieces back in, you could lose a creature. Linden's probably the first one on my list that I might consider getting rid of. It's not a super high creature count kind of deck, so you'll gain a little bit of life off of Linden, but being a 3/3 on the ground, I think is going to hold it back a little bit. It's fine. I just don't think it's the best deck for Linden. So here we'll do that. We'll get rid of that. We'll bring in one of those Stax pieces. There, Temporal Distortion back in. Choose whichever of the 2 is better. I'm not sure which one is better, but cool. Yeah, so that's what I would do. Just a little bit more removal. Give yourself a little bit of reanimation. I think that's what the deck wants. Maybe spice up the lands a little bit. Added a Hall of Heliod's Generosity. Added an Ameria. But other than that, I thought it was a really fun deck to play. Obviously, I like playing Angel decks, and this has a lot of Angel stuff in it. Years and years before I started the channel, you know, this is like 2007 probably, I used to play Jeskai Angel Reanimators and Extended, usually 2-headed giant Extended, so that was a thing that I used to do, and this is very reminiscent of that, obviously with a modern take on it because of lots of new Angels and stuff like that, with the Stax also thrown in. So yeah, really cool deck. Got to see some interesting stuff this game, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have a bunch of new Patreon supporters in Antediluvian, Sparks, and Zay Morera. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon, the link below.